I suppose not to do counterfeiting, but if the cap fits, someone must wear it. And it is a pity when personalities come into situations.
This is on the counterfeiting bill now.
Of course
so
I am.
Don't try my patience.
I am, of course, and I thank you for your indulgence, Cathaoirleach.
I haven't indulged you.
Well, you might have to yet. So I thank you in anticipation. Is that all right? Listen, I want to make a few brief comments on this bill. I have questions asked for the Minister, certainly. And Kate Keshtas, Ken Fá Grouchy, Kerriblin Déanach. Why is it Kerriblin Déanach? Why is it 4 years? Why are we so far behind? 4 years later. No, you weren't the Minister then, but departments seem to be lagging here. As I said, the bill provides for transposition of outstanding elements of Directive 2014/62/EU, the directive on the protection of the euro and other currencies against outstanding counterfeiting. We know we nearly lost the euro back in 2008 or 9, and we know the price that we paid in this country, and will pay, and our grandchildren and your grandchildren, will pay for that bailing out of the banks to the tune of 69 billion. Under the Taoiseach said recently we had no bailout, so selective memory loss. And it's very important that we do, and we must think of, I welcome this in ways, but in other ways I'm worried, because how many more pieces of legislation is another cash to have for the Tara are waiting out there from the EU with demands or pressure or whatever way they operate, fines or whatever, for us to implement at their behest. And where is the sovereignty of our own Parliament and our own self-determination gone? Since I was quite young at the time, in '73, but I remember putting up posters and helping out when we joined the EU, certainly, with great hopes for it. And we did benefit, a lot of benefits out of the EU. But now it seems to be all payback time. And we know we're net contributors now rather than beneficiaries. And we know the last deal, the Taoiseach tried to dress it up as a good one. It's a horrible deal, it's horrible. But on this area here, there's huge areas for roguery and skullduggery, and we should be acting to stop that anyway, on our own terms, without being prodded and nodded and coerced by the EU. Because, as been said by others, and I was party to that meeting yesterday evening on Zoom organised by Dr. Nocton for the young scientists, and we all miss it this year, and the innovation and the expertise, but to see where they can bring us. And the question was put to the young chap, the winner from West Cork, Bandon, I think, was he contacted? Had he been contacted by any of the tech giants? And he said no. Now maybe did he expect to be or would he want to be, but at least the ideas are out there, and we need to bring them forward and let the young people show us. Now, I'm very poor at IT skills and everything else, but there's huge areas for deceit and deception and downright fraud associated with online. And other speakers have referred to it earlier about people, getting all these offers online and everything else. So we know the pressure that it's putting on, inadvertently, I suppose, is putting on local small traders who can compete. I know there's some grants for people to go online, but that is a big area. So as I said, how much more legislation, Minister? You might answer those in your reply, and why are we 4 years Déanach in transposing this? As I said, it's the Wild West in banking here in this country. And, in the past, and I'm dealing with banks since 67 or 8 or 9, certainly. And to think that, I'd be very poor, I haven't the best of eyesight. We always hold up the notes to see is there a line down to them or whatever. But my understanding is that the tellers who overcounted the notes in the bank, if banks came in if notes came in that were legal tender or counterfeit, and the teller signed off on them, they had to pay that out of their own pocket. So it seems to me to be, I'm an employer as well, in the business that I have, and we couldn't treat, I wouldn't treat employees like that. We all have breakages and damages and whatever, we work to do our best, but you don't have punitive measures to punish the employee. And it seems the banks can do what they like. They can punish the customers 24/7, and I won't use the adjective, it was that with an S that they do to them, but they can punish their staff. And then when you have, hard-working people behind the counter, whether they're in shops, whether they're in fast food outlets, and takeaway, whether they're in, any kind of small business, and they get, it's even worse, I suppose, when they're in a business, if they get a cash payment for something, a service, a funeral provider or something that's quite big, and sometimes it's drawn out from the credit union and given in cash, whatever, and if counterfeit notes come in, you're in trouble. And we deal in good faith, and mainly in Irish business, and we deal with people on an honest basis that they don't know. Sometimes they get money, and it's not. Some of the notes are counterfeit, and they don't know it. I'm suspecting they pass it on, and that's genuine. But then there is the crimes and the people out there in crime, and I want to salute CAB and the different forensic outfits, not outfits, but units in Garda Síochána. And I want to sue CAB yesterday in my own constituency, in the very south of it, and a big operation there, and freezing €540,000. We can't have enough of CAB. And in this area, again, I want to support the community policing, because, you know, they get to know the people. And we've seen since the onset of the COVID that the community have gone back into their where they're best at it, standing in the people's kitchens, helping out, not the Curlacale, helping out the elderly and vulnerable in the community and getting to know them. And you get to know the people like that, and then you know where, and you get information, not in a barracks being open or whatever else, but it's engaging on the ground. And if you allow me to digress a small bit, here, look, I did ask you earlier for some big indulgence. It's in relation to the community policing. And the cars, you know, you've seen them in your own constituency in Dublin, they're all being withdrawn now. And that's a big disappointment. I'm talking about this very important. Community policing is very important here, and this. Yeah. Of course it has, because the community will get information.
No, nothing to do with counterfeit, the topic, the counterfeiting bill, though.
No, the reason, of course it has, because if the community guard stands in the people's kitchens, gets to know the families, gets to know the people, and gets to know who's a bit dodgy in the area, and will garner information like that, and they pass it on. Of course it has. Very important to know where someone has a lot of cash and people are wondering where they have it, and, you know, the means of getting it. Of course, it's very important. It goes back to basics, to solving crime, whether it be counterfeit notes or whether it be plain bank robbery. It's very important to have the community connection. They will get the trust of the people. And I'm not calling in farmers, because that word has gone out with the flood. The people are civic-minded to tell. There's things going on here that shouldn't be going on here, and we need to support them. So I want to salute my community guard under Sergeant Maloney in the Care District, and indeed Ray, and indeed Jenny Goff and Gavin O'Glavin, and in Clonmel as well, and all over County Tipperary. So it's a pity, the visibility of those cars alone, but they're all being taken back, and the units are under pressure again. So we need them in the community. All crime, whether it be counterfeiting or whether it be violence against men or women or anything, the Gardaí can manage. No police force in the world can operate without the support of the public. That has been learned the world over, and we need the support of the public. And to get the support of the public, the community Garda is the way to get them. The old style, they got into the people, had the information, and supported the people, and were there when the people needed them, and it'll come back in spadefuls. As I said, with the cards now and transactions on cards, it's very easy for scammers, and we can see that with the cars. You don't have to put in your PIN number, just swiping. There's huge areas for fraud, you know, and we need to be able to deal with that. And the small businesses are wide open to be plundered, and goodness knows they're troubled enough at the moment, under enough pressure, without having all this kind of technical fraud. And so we need CAB to be reinforced. We need, as I said, all the units from Garda Síochána to be able to deal with that, and we need all Gardaí then, I suppose, to be re-educated, like in any walk of life, my own included. You have to learn something every day. It's a bad day, you don't learn something new. So these criminals can be ahead of us, and not can be, but are normally ahead of us, and they're international. And we can see actions yesterday as well in different frontiers where against Irish-based criminals. So they have wide cartels, and they have expansive networks. And it's very important that we do reinforce this piece of legislation, Albert. As I said, my questions remain. Why are we 4 years after the fact? How many more pieces are lined up on the legislation? We had one again quite recently, I think it was last week, where we were fined. So why are we so slow? And then we must be very ever careful that we don't diminish our sovereignty as well. It's time to be wearing two hats, I suppose, having the benefits of European membership. It's important, I suppose, and they can nod us along to bring this legislation, but we should be bringing forward legislation to deal with these kind of issues, our own legislation, and have it brought in here and debated and legally scrutinised and put into being as well. Go to Town Caller.